In this lesson, we're going to look at the lead vocal. This one's going to take you quite a bit of time. There's a lot of things that you have to do. Once again, as said in previous lessons, if you are a keyboard player and you can play these parts in, you are going to be at a massive advantage to everyone else. And it shouldn't take you nowhere near as long as it's taken me. At this current moment, I've inputted all the notes, I've done a lot of the work, I'm still not finished, and I've probably still got a few more hours in front of me before I do actually finish. And so far I've taken approximately 4 hours to get this far, and I see probably another 2 hours before I kind of get all the sculpting done properly. We are at a good point to show you all the notes and let you guys get on with it, but you do need to keep that in consideration, that this will take you quite a bit of time. Now the problem with that is, if you're going to do this over multiple sessions, you are going to forget some of the stuff that you've done. So if you have got a block of time where you can just get most of this work done, you would be much better than to leave it for a week. I started this last week, and now I'm a week later, and I had to kind of spend at least half an hour just going back through some of the things that I had done. So just keep that in mind. If you've got a large block of time, maybe 2-3 hours, you're going to be better off trying to get the vocals done in that large time, just so you can kind of spend some time and get focused with it. Now the first thing we need to look at is with this lead vocal. Now it's written, and it's got this little 8 below it, which means it's actually written an octave higher than it sounds. Okay, so keep that in mind. A couple of times I forgot this, and I put it at the wrong octave, and I was like, oh my goodness, why doesn't that sound right? The other thing with the score is the phrasing is miles off. Okay, so you're going to have to do lots and lots of work with the phrasing. It's written in a clear way so that you can actually take it from the score and put it into your sequencer, but the phrasing is quite a way off. And also towards the end sections, there are lots of changes that you will have to listen to. I've done most of them, and I will screenshot all of what I've done into this lesson. So look below this video now, and you'll see the screenshots of all the extra notes that you need to kind of complete these parts. Once again, there's quite a lot. The end section, the vocal gets a bit crazy, and it does quite a lot of kind of wobbly notes. And it took me quite a long time to work those bits out. So you will have to do a lot of work on the phrasing. So you can type this in, or you can play this in. Like, once again, if you're playing it in, you're just going to be a massive advantage. But if you're typing this in, you're going to have to do a lot of sculpting. Now let me show you what I've got on the actual score. Remember the key as well. I know I say this in every lesson. C is a C sharp, F is an F sharp, and G is a G sharp. Okay, there are no naturals for those 3 notes, so they are all sharp. So just remember that. A couple of times I kind of found myself going, oh my goodness, that sounds wrong, and then you realise that you've put it on the C rather than the C sharp. So here it is here, and most of this is written. Apart from this area here, these are all my wild notes, and this part here, in the pre-chorus 2, is completely different to this, and it goes up, 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 up. And once again, I'll put all of these notes into the lesson. I'll screenshot them all so you can kind of help yourself with that. And the same with these notes. So they are not written. Okay, pretty much everything else is written. This one here goes up the octave, as does this one here. So just remember that these ones get quite a bit higher. So if you find yourself writing them lower, you need to listen to the actual track. One of the things that I've been doing to get the phrasing right is soloing the track and listening to the lead vocal. At one point, I don't know if I've still done it. Let me just have a look. No, I did do it. Look, so I've actually dropped the volume of the actual track now massively, so that this vocal shines at exactly the same pitch, so you can actually hear what I'm doing and the track together. Let me just play this first section, and then I'll walk you through it. Now please remember, this is a work in progress, so it's not completely finished, but we're getting some good results. The main point of this lesson is to show you the techniques that you will need to employ and give you some ideas about the right notes and phrasing. So here's what I've got so far, and I'll play it to the track, and you can hear my note underneath and you can hear theirs. And what I've been doing is just going through and sculpting these based on the phrases, based on the velocity that they're singing at, or the person singing at, Sam Smith, and based on the phrases that I want. I've done a lot of sculpting using the MIDI controllers. So I've been using modulation, and I've been using, pitch bend. So there's a little bit of pitch bend. These are typed in, but I'll show you a way of actually recording them in after you've input all the notes as well. But I've just typed these in just to keep it bit simpler and a bit cleaner. So here we go. Here's what we've got so far. Okay, so let me just play you what I've got, just so you can hear the actual sound. And you can hear all those lovely wobble notes, and I'll show you how I get them. So, let's break this down as we do in all lessons. Let's look at the instrument first. So, excuse me. Which instrument did I initially choose? And I'm not sure that I've done too much changing. Like I said, I started this last week, so I haven't quite got it, but I'll give you the screenshot for the instrument as well. So I went to the leads, which is in the synthesizers. So synthesizers, leads, and then the one I chose was this percussive square lead. A lot of the reason for that is the LFO is doing some nice bouncy things with the echo delay, and on the actual track there is this really nice delay effect. And we've also got the stereo delay patched into this one as well. So it gives me that effect with doing very little with anything else. So here's the sound that we got from this percussive square lead. So once again, it's using the ES2. So I'll give you this screenshot. I don't think I've changed too much. I might have changed the cutoff, and I may have changed the envelope ever so slightly, but I don't think I've done massively too much to that. Okay, the panning for this track is definitely down the centre. The lead vocal does take centre stage in pretty much every pop music, so it is going to be centre. And as you can see, I haven't adjusted the volume at all. I've left the volume at 0, and everything now is going to be sculpted around this vocal. Okay, moving back to the sound. So once again, here's the sound that I've got that produces. Now, the things that we're using, you're going to have to do quite a bit of MIDI shaping for this one. So the things that we're using, firstly is portamento. To get some of those slides, we're using portamento. Now portamento, as shown in previous lessons, is where the notes overlap, and rather than being one note followed by another, they slide into it. Let me just see if I can find a portamento note for you. So here's a really obvious portamento point. So as you can see, these last notes slide down, so I've just overlapped them completely, so we get that kind of that slide down through the notes. Here it is. Okay, so a nice little slide down rather than that. Okay, so the first technique that we're using is portamento. So next thing we looked at was the phrasing of the actual notes, making sure that we take into account that if it says a crotchet, it may not necessarily be a crotchet. It may be staccato, or it may be legato, it may be slightly longer, it might be slightly later. Also taking into consideration that some of the notes will fall before or after the bar. If I zoom into bar 27, you'll see that actually I've made this decision, and once again it was based on one of my other users' feedback about how these vocals were shaping, that actually it is slightly before the beat, and only ever so slightly, and it does give it that rigid feel that kind of pushes and pulls against the beat. So I've made this decision to pull the notes off, and that does definitely make it less mechanical. Now this note here on the score was a crotchet, so as you can see, to get the phrasing right, I've actually shortened it, and listen to the track with what I've put and see if you agree with that. You see, same thing here. So rather than putting the crotchet in, we've shortened them right down. So listening to the track is really important. So the first thing we've got is portamento. Second thing is shaping them. The third thing we've got is velocity. And you will have to listen to the track and find the points at which the notes are loudest and which the notes are quietest, okay? So how I've been doing this is going down to the velocity tool and just knocking the notes up or knocking the notes down as I hear it. Let's see if there's some really obvious. So in my eyes, this one here is louder than this one here, which is quieter. So see if you agree with that. Okay, so that was the next thing. We're just knocking around the velocity, and you'll need to shape them quite a bit. Like I say, if you're playing it in, it's not going to be a problem. You're going to get that straight away. Now, after we've got these notes in, one thing that you might want to do is play in the portamento, you might want to play in the pitch bend. Now what I did, if you're going to record these in, come up to the menu item that says record, go down to where it says MIDI recording options, and just make sure you've got this join with selected regions selected. So when you come to adding this MIDI data from the pitch bend wheel or the modulation wheel, when you press record, it will just join all that data with this container rather than overwriting this container, which some of you may have already found that that's what happens if you haven't got this menu set up properly. So record is the menu item, MIDI recording options, and then join with selected regions, and that will allow you to record this data in. And once you do that, you can come down to the control wheel. If it's not open, it's this button here, and it's slightly different on Logic 9. Logic 9 is down in this corner here. And you can actually choose your controller. So the modulation wheel is something I've done here. Now, if you don't want to play it in and you just want to type it in, you can use the pencil tool or you can use the arrow tool, it doesn't matter. And you can just click away. So if you want to add modulation in, you just click away at your notes. Remember, for modulation, 0 is the off point, okay? So if you leave it at 27 like I've got here, that will be modulating all the way through these notes. So make sure that once you've finished needing the modulation, and as you can see, I've only done it for individual notes. So once you finish using the modulation, remember to turn it off, okay? So let's turn that off. Double click on a dot will get rid of it. So there you go, we put a bit of modulation on there, and if I want to hear it, I'll grab them even more so, grab the middle, and you can pull both dots up together. Here it is, listen to this, it'll be dodgy, but have a listen. Okay, and it gives you that wobble effect. That's what modulation does, it gives you that really nice wobble effect, okay? So in his voice, in Sam Smith's voice, he does have quite a bit of that going on, where he's kind of wobbling on and off the note, and the modulation is one of those ways in which you can emphasize that point. The other thing that he's got going on is these pitch bends. It's very difficult to get pitch bends right. So what I've done is found kind of the bend point, and I'm using between 12 and 6 as a bend point, and it is very specific. If I zoom in, you'll notice that I'm not actually putting the bend point at the beginning of the note, so I'm letting the listener's ear hear the note as it should be on the actual pitch, and then about just over halfway through I'm doing a really quick bend to give it some phrasing momentum, okay? And you'll find that in a lot of vocalists' voice, that they'll give that phrasing that you need to listen to, so be very aware of that. And it does only need to be short. I mean, this is quite a wide one. It's just a quick wobble up, quick wobble down. Another thing that you need to remember about pitch bend, the 0 point is actually in the middle. Okay, so like modulation, the 0 point was at the bottom, but for pitch bend, the 0 point where it resets itself to the original note is 0 is in the middle. So for instance, if you left it on and it was like that, all of these notes afterwards would now be, you know, an octave and one note and one semitone higher than what's written, okay? So you need to be very aware of that you must reset this after each go. If you're playing it in, it will naturally just reset itself to the 0 point. It does that already. The modulation, if you're playing it in, the wheel normally doesn't do that, so you will need to pull it all the way down to make sure it resets. Okay, so just to repeat, we've covered the portamento, we've covered pitch bend, we've covered modulation, we've covered velocity phrasing, we've covered note phrasing, which is at the actual length of it. I've also said to you about making sure you get the right octaves and making sure you get the right pitches as well, whether it be C or C sharp. And we've also covered the delay effect, and making sure you've got that nice delay. So if you decide to choose a different instrument, remember there is a delay effect, and also remember to listen to the actual track along with this song, because the phrasing is different, okay, to what's written on the score, and a lot of the phrasing is missing out. I will give you all of these screenshots in this below this video, so give it your best shot, see how you get on.